It gives me great pleasure to present my report to you today, Planning for the Future of the Family Farm. But before I go too far, if I appear nervous, don't worry about it because I am. I need to say some thank yous first. Firstly, to the Nuffield Farming Scholarship Trust, and in particular, John Stones, for having belief in me and giving me this life-changing opportunity. Secondly, to my joint sponsors, the Trehane Trust and the Dartington Cattle Breeding Trust, for their generous bursaries that have allowed me to complete my study. My family, Sue, my wife, Bex, my daughter, Tom, my son, my parents, and all our staff at home, who have supported and encouraged me throughout my study and kept the business ticking over while I was away. I'm a fourth-generation dairy farmer farming on the most southerly tip of Devon. I left school at 16, foolishly believing that I'd had enough of education, as all I ever wanted to do was be a farmer. When I came home to the family farm in the 1980s, we were farming 250 acres and milking 100 cows. Over the subsequent years, the business has steadily grown, and in the past 10 years, my father and I have been fortunate enough to increase our land base to 1,100 acres through a mix of purchased and tenanted land, and are currently milking 550 cows. Feeling the need for a challenge, with my midlife crisis looming, I had the desire to study a topic relevant not only to myself and my business, but also to the wider industry audience. In the words of my wife, it would have been a lot easier if I bought a bike. But as usual, I didn't listen to her. Planning for the future of the family farm. How can we make the future of our family farm sustainable? With an ever-growing, ever-aging population, more families will have to be large enough to support possibly up to 3 generations. This will bring with it negatives as well as positives. Compromise will be paramount, with no doubt old and new ideas clashing. Neither should be dismissed, as the past has built the foundations of the future business. Change is inevitable. Farming continues to evolve. Ladies and gentlemen, to stand still is not an option. How do farmers around the world manage succession? The term succession is usually used in a narrow sense of asset transfer between generations, with little attention paid to management succession in the case of a farm business. Succession is an extremely emotive word, and I was keen to discover from other parts of the world how to handle this delicate situation. My Nuffield journey started with a Contemporary Scholars Conference, firstly based in Whitehall, London, and then on to Wellington, New Zealand, where it soon became apparent how influential Nuffield is within agriculture. There were some truly inspirational people at the conference, and I was suitably humbled by the strength and determination shown by, in particular, Mark Ingalls, the first double amputee to reach the summit of Mount Everest, and Rob Cook, a 2011 Australian scholar who was paralysed from the neck down due to a helicopter accident while mustering cattle in the Northern Territory in 2008. My own personal study tour started in the Netherlands. Here I met several young enthusiastic farmers who were keen to make their businesses work for them rather than the other way around. Predominantly highly intensive small family farms having little opportunities for expansion due to the lack of available land. Minimal labour with high levels of automation. As we can see, this robot feeder that I saw, the cost of this automation has attributed high levels of debt. I moved on to the US, and my flight to Chicago with British Airways was a real high point for me. Settling down on meal on board and being served coffee with a Dairy Sticks milk portion. This is great, I thought. Not only am I setting off on the journey of a lifetime, but I'm being served my own milk in a dairy stick. The farmers I met running multi-generation businesses were extremely proud and progressive, and were very open about their forward planning. John Baker, a state attorney who specialises in family farm transition, hosted me for a few days. He made me realise that we in the UK do not have ready access to the professional capabilities needed for the successful transition of our businesses. We've tended to brush under the carpet a lot of issues that our American counterparts are actually dealing with. Sorry, I missed one. One of John's success stories are the Hummel family. A 15-year transition plan was put in place. Dad being in charge for the first 5 years, joint responsibility for the next 5 years, and son taking over in the last 5 years. In fact, by year 11, both parties had agreed that the son would take control. Although not related to my study, but relative to all farmers, in my opinion, the American farmers have more support from the ever-growing American population than what we do in the UK. The American public realise that if we want cheap foods, then size does matter. From the US, I moved on to New Zealand. The first generation farmers I met were extremely profitable, ruthless in their business decision making, and professional. These new farmers are focused, driven businessmen, prepared to seize opportunities and take calculated risks. An example of this is Andrew Benton, whose farm we see here in Canterbury. The business has grown from 180 cows 10 years ago to over 5,000 today. Andrew's advice is to have a clear understanding of the situations at all times, i.e. financial position, opportunities, and the consequences of the impact on your business. There is little or no emotional attachment to land, with the attitude that if all goes wrong, sell and move on. Generally, high levels of debt with low or even negative equity were not an issue. Many were on interest-only borrowing with no plans to repay capital, and the banks were extremely supportive and keen to lend. On to Australia, where I again encountered a lot of multi-generational businesses. The Australians that I met were more prepared to create and continue the family business similar to what we have in the UK. The older generation generally prepared to retire and allow their successors to take control. They were open about their plans they have in place for the next generation. The Ryan family were an example of this. This isn't the Ryan family, okay? This is my example. Basil Ryan's comment on him and his son Liam, aged only 21. Young bull Liam and old bull Basil. Old bull now lying down in the corner under a shady hedge. Young bull tearing around the field. Planning for the future is high on the agenda. Increasingly use of corporate-type boards bring in outside chairmen. They realise the continuance of the business is a priority. So what have I learnt? Tradition and sentiment seem to be the major hurdle to progress, particularly in the UK and Europe. There is no one-size-fits-all solutions template. But of all those farming businesses that I have visited, those that have been open with and have trust in each other are those that are going to succeed and will continue to succeed. Communication, honesty, compromise, and a mutual clear vision of the future, together with detailed planning, are the key elements for success. Farming is no different to any other business. We are responsible for large turnovers, and spending time in the farm office is as important as being in the milking parlour. The family should develop a clear strategic plan that all parties concur with. Each member must be open about their ambitions, concerns and expectations, and agree where the business is going and what they want to do, they want the business to do for them. Future succession is influenced by previous succession experiences. Do not make the same mistakes. Remember the past forms the future. Communicate, compromise, be positive. Ladies and gentlemen, you and your businesses will succeed. What has Nuffield done for me? Well, basically, ladies and gentlemen, having never really appreciated the older generation's traditional ideas, I now see that it is because of that that we're here today. There will always be farming. There has always been farming, and there will always be farming. We must adapt and change as our industry requires. Nuffield has tremendously improved my self-confidence. It's made me very positive and strengthened my passionate belief in the future of UK agriculture. The future is bright. We must grasp it. Ladies and gentlemen, Nuffield. It's been a challenging but eternally worthwhile journey. Thank you.